So we'll call this meeting to order. So I'll call this meeting to order along with the coach at 7:01 p.m. The first item on the agenda is action on the two sets of minutes, one from our meeting and one from the workshop. So I'll ask first the agenda, meeting minutes rather, from our meeting on October 28th, 2025. Does anybody have any changes, amendments, concerns?
Yeah.
Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
For both of them or individually?
Let's do one.
I make a motion, we approve the October 28, 2025 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Action on the minutes from our workshop on November 13th, 2025.
Excuse me, but are you speaking into a microphone? We can't understand you.
Yeah, we don't, I'll just have to speak louder.
Yeah, thank you.
The second action item is action on the meeting minutes from the POCD committee workshop on November 13th, 2025. I didn't see any concerns with them. Anybody have any additions, changes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the PCOD committee 2026 workshop on November 13th, 2025.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is to review and discuss the November workshop and public input received. I was pleased with how it went. I think we had some good participation, but I'm eager to hear what the other members of the committee think, and also to fill in my co-chair.
I saw again, thank you guys for attending. Sorry I missed it, but I did see the opening and I heard that, got some good input. And I think the workshop pattern started with the center, or did you do it on affordable housing? Or I know you did on the center study.
Yeah,
I think
center
that's a good
study.
way.
We didn't do it on affordable housing because we had such a tight timeline.
I think it's a good way to get input. I don't know if you guys felt that way from attending.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to get people engaged rather than just sitting there and listening to a presentation. They're actually actively participating. I went to the center study one and I thought it was great, and this one worked out really well too.
Was it well attended?
Pretty well attended.
Yeah, more than I expected, I would
Yeah,
say.
on a weeknight, maybe.
Yeah, I think
30
we had
or so?
about 30 responses based on when I was going through the survey sheets.
And the online survey is out?
Yeah, so two pieces. The packet I left or passed out tonight, apologies I wasn't able to send this out sooner, but this compiles all the information from the public workshop, from the folks who attended that. And then the survey, which is a follow-up and kind of takes us online, has been issued. And so far we have 113 responses to the survey.
Wow.
Digital?
Yeah.
Okay.
And something too, I have, and I wanted everyone to take a look at this before we start posting, but it is a flyer. I was planning on sending it to the senior center, library to post, as well as in town hall. And then if there are any other areas around that folks want to post it, so people are made aware of it. And the survey did go out both via the town email system, the notification through the homepage. And then I also asked Parks and Rec if they would be willing to send it to their distribution list, which they kindly did. So I understand we, will get some duplicate, notification to folks, which might be a little concerning or frustrating to people, but I would rather cast a really wide net to try and reach people who are subscribed to as many places as possible. So certainly, if anyone has any other ideas about how to get survey notice out,
The Facebook page?
please let me know.
Anna's?
Yes. I'm sorry. You meant the town Facebook page. So as an employee, I can't post to them.
Right.
But I will let the committee determine
But it's
what's
okay.
appropriate.
It's okay. to do
Oh,
it.
you mean to post on Granby Living? Oh, yeah, we should do that. So there are people who, that's the only place they see town news, so we should do that.
So do you want me to walk through some of the highlights?
Yeah, I think just to go through,
The workshop.
obviously I wasn't there and some others might not have been there, but just, I don't think everybody was at every table,
Mhm.
right? So it's probably good just
No.
to walk through this. I'd like to, just, get some input, and it's just, I'm reading through it, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What people said.
Yeah, so again, this is just for context, a relatively small sample size because only 30 people did attend, but just to give you a high-level overview of some of the feedback received so far. So our vision for the future, there are a lot of comments about affordable housing options, smaller units, diversity in housing, and a real focus on Granby Center, which kind of aligns with some of what we've heard with the last POCD. For economic development, again, things that kind of stuck out to me, again, a focus on Granby Center and looking at kind of unique special businesses that will serve residents and the region. So, not your big box stores. For open space, I got this one that was, continue on the current path with preserving open space and also lean on our partners. So DEEP, Connecticut Farmland Trust, McLean was mentioned. It came up later on in the survey that some folks thought that the town really wasn't doing much, but because of the work with Granby Land Trust and McLean, Granby does have a lot of preserved open space, which is certainly reflected in the data that we see as well. Community facilities overall, the feedback was that they're maintained and improved and continue to match the population. And again, that is reflected later on in some of the feedback we got with those questions. For both historic resources and farmland, I think overall the keywords there are preserved. So folks wanted our historic resources preserved and also existing farmland to be preserved and not developed or turned to other uses. So those were kind of the big points that came across with that. Town roads and transportation, again, the highlights, an emphasis on bikers, walkers, sidewalks, slowed traffic. So really looking at some alternative transportation and trying to make our roads in town more pedestrian and biker friendly. And then infrastructure, it seemed that there was some feedback to have it expanded in the center area and where it is already. So again, looking at Granby Center, Salmon Brook, and doing our best to improve and enhance within those areas.
Just find a in town center is plowed under. We start over.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some, again, that really helpful feedback and good ideas. So then, moving on to how we feel about Granby today and town priorities. Majority, 62%, felt that Granby should grow and change, but incrementally.
Was this is from the workshop?
Just the workshop.
Because you have some of those questions on the.
Yes, so
Okay.
these questions are also part of the online survey, so these will be merged together to make sure that, the workshop information is pulled over into the rest. What should Granby focus more on? The highlights, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, protection of natural resources and farmland, and again, that's supported back in the vision that folks identified. Infrastructure, affordable housing development, and economic development. So those were the 5 top ones that stood out there.
Find it interesting that roadways and traffic just fell out of the top 5, but it was a theme throughout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you'll see some comments, what other issues. So, reusing empty buildings, making sure we're aggressive in affordable housing, diversity, attracting young families, and serving our rural nature. So again, kind of the common themes that we heard in the vision. And then what should Granby focus less on? This is this will obviously have to be combined with this, with the online survey, because the responses were really low for this question. But, you know, slightly parks and athletic fields, hiking trails, protection of natural resources, and municipal services. But again, it's such a small,
Yeah, I don't think the
Sample there.
sample size is,
yeah,
you look at the percentages and then you look at the people, it's.
right,
So
yeah.
it contradicts some of the
Yeah,
other
exactly.
outcomes.
It does,
You
yeah.
can
Yeah.
have two people answering one, 4 people. So.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, so again, looking at
That
more
reliable.
holistically, yeah. And then housing, I thought this section was pretty interesting. So we asked folks what their current housing type is. So most were single-family homes, either small and large. When identifying which housing unit they'll most likely need next, accessory dwelling unit ranked pretty high, as well as no change in housing type. And we had some identifying age restricted and then unsure. And we had some comments about where folks, you know, said they might not be able to continue to live here. And then thinking about housing needs for other family members, again, accessory dwelling units ranked really high. And I think this is supported by what planning and zoning is seeing with some applications, as
I
well
was
as the
gonna say
building
the same thing.
department.
We get a lot of accessory dwelling applications at P&Z.
Is that adding a unit on property?
Yeah, either on, and you, they have been
In-law.
subject, just, yeah, an in-law type is a good way to think about it.
And are they attached or like a granny pot? Oh,
So they can be attached or detached. Attached are allowed under the zoning regulations by a building permit, provided it meets the criteria. Detached units require special permit approval.
and what do we see more of?
I think we see more special. Well, it's hard because you're the best person to answer because you see both categories and we don't see the
Yeah.
building permit ones.
I feel like attached.
I think the time I was on commission, Peggy too, was most of them were all attached.
Well, we didn't allow detached
That's till
until fairly
Until
recently,
recently.
yeah.
but even if we switched the regulation, because I talked to Paula and you, and it's,
Yeah.
I never remembered an attached where we ever rejected it, because it had to follow the criteria anyway, so.
Yeah, there was one that was a little questionable because we weren't sure the owner was actually living there, but other than that, we always approved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I remember too, from my shorter time on the commission.
And then in the next 10 years, do you think your family's future housing needs can be met in Granby? So 64% think yes, which is great.
Yeah, that was good.
What concerns do you have about new housing development in Granby? The majority selected aesthetics and design of new development, followed by scale and size, loss of open space / agriculture / forest, and impacts to natural resources. And again, I think this ties back to the vision, you know, and folks want to preserve the open space that we have and, you know, perhaps concentrate development in the center. But certainly aesthetics are a concern here, which I think planning and zoning hears about. We do have some other selections. So diversity and again, affordable housing came up under the other selection. And then number 8, do you have any other comments or suggestions regarding housing? There were some comments about infill in the center, more mixed use, affordability, and then accessory dwelling units as well. So I think those are some themes that are emerging, at least from the workshop responses. And it'll be interesting to see if we see similarities with the online responses as well. Any questions about the housing so far?
Because a lot of these questions are on the survey, so I'll be curious to see the samples from there, because I can see it's a sample and I can see some trends, because I'll be just curious to see how the numbers come in.
Yep.
The 110, that's good.
And then transportation, what is your opinion on the following statements? So folks really don't identify traffic congestion as an issue. For traffic speeding, roads in good condition, roads are safe, it is easy to get across. There was an agreement with all of that. That was the highest one. So it is also interesting to see the patterns and how folks align. And there were some comments about the center of town and the intersection there. And then 2, what is your opinion on the following statements related to pedestrian and bicycle facilities? So 42% disagreed that there are adequate bicycle and pedestrian transportation options. And then, so you would expect then, the majority responded, strongly agreed that more sidewalks are needed and more bike lane and facilities are needed. And again, I think this is really helpful too, because it does point back to the vision, and folks identified, Granby as wanting to be walkable and bikeable. And so this could potentially be an area for improvement. Again, more trails are needed. There was a support for that. I feel safe walking on roads. Folks disagreed with that. I feel safe biking on roads. Folks disagreed with that. So again, I think that points to that there are some improvements that we could identify in the plan. And then what types of transportation improvements are needed? Support for traffic calming measures, sidewalks and crosswalks, public transit options, and bike paths and lanes. And then going on to the economic development section, when planning for new business development in Granby, how would you prioritize the following? The majority identified the goods or services the business will provide as the number 1, and then the number of jobs that the business will provide as the third consideration. So how much tax revenue the business will generate seemed to fall on second there. If it supported additional economic development, would you support the expansion of infrastructure? Majority, again, for sewer, water, and gas, all strongly agreed with that statement. And again, that's reflected, I think, with what, some of the earlier responses as well. And then 3, what do you think some of the challenges are to economic development in Granby? The number 1 selected were lease rates, followed by property taxes, and then municipal regulations such as zoning and permitting process, and then infrastructure, water, sewer, gas. So again, painting a picture of some things you might want to think about for the plan. 4, if Granby wanted to support additional economic development, would you support expansion of business zones or intensification of business uses in the following areas? Salmon Brook Street, Floydville Road north to the Salmon Brook Vet, so the T1 area. Majority strongly agreed with that area, as well as the Granby Center area. And then Salmon Brook Street north, the schools north to the old mill shops, again, strong agreement with that area. And then Salmon Brook Street, the Lakeside Drive area, north to Aero Concrete. And folks strongly disagreed with looking at the North Granby, the Cossett Library area as an area for economic development. And then there are a lot of comments and suggestions about economic development in Granby number 5 that were pretty interesting and I think can be helpful as we draft the plan there. Open space, agriculture, historic and cultural resources. There were basically agreed across the board with town does a good job protecting historic resources, good job protecting open space, good job protecting natural resources, and a good job protecting farmland. And again, across the board agreed with Granby should prioritize zoning regulations that protect historic and cultural structures, explore the creation of a historic district commission, and better promote or inform the community about its historic and cultural resources. And then how important are the following factors when considering the acquisition of open space? Strongly agreed with preserving agricultural land, preserving wildlife corridors, agreed with provide hiking or other passive recreational activities, and then strongly agreed with located close to other preserved open space. And I think, again, this points back to the vision where folks expressed support and the importance of preserving our open space and ag lands. And then 4, what elements of open spaces are important to you? Hiking trails ranked top, followed by multi-use paths, and then wildlife and scenic viewing areas. So again, that shows that folks might like open space to be more recreational perhaps and usable, which I think is important. And then 5, supporting agriculture in Granby. Basically, agree or strongly agree across the board with all of those items. So that will definitely be something that this committee, I think, will have to discuss in more detail and look at the online to see what makes it into the POCD plan as potential strategies in this area. And then number 6, over the next 10 years, Granby should pursue the following sustainability initiatives. Again, strongly agree for all of those items there on the sustainability initiatives. So I think overall just really showing support for sustainability there. And then we had some helpful comments and suggestions about open space, ag, and historic and cultural resources under number 7. So again, it'll be interesting to see what we get online and some more comments there. So certainly, this will be a good starting point. And then the town services and community facilities section, I think, is really interesting. You'll see with 1 pretty much down the line, will the following community facilities meet the community needs over the next 10 years? There was agreement with all facilities listed. But then when it came to the services that need improvement, it was interesting looking at some of the responses and not a clear, I think, division or agreement where folks think improvement is needed, which probably speaks to their background and how they use the different services. So again, that'll be interesting once we look at the online survey results.
So just a question, what looks like there was, 12 or 14 people? You said there was 30, so not everybody took the survey at the...
Right, yeah, some people, they didn't answer all the questions. It was, and that's something that the online survey tries to standardize with requiring certain questions be answered. Most of the online required ones are the ones that you can check the box or select, and then the comment questions are left optional. So hopefully we'll get consistent responses for those questions that are required.
How long will the online survey stay open?
So we did request responses by the end of December. So I think it's important that we try and gather as much information as we can now, because getting the feedback and what people see and view as being important, I think, is essential to being able to draft and craft the strategies to implement that, which hopefully will be worked on in January and February. So that's kind of what we're thinking.
Well, thanks, Debbie. Is obviously, even though there weren't a large number of responses, there was a lot of data that flowed in. Yeah, this is very helpful.
I just some grounding us, and I'm just gonna be interested to see what numbers come in. And I think December is good cutoff because it gives you time to digest the data and do some statistical review of it.
Do you have this flyer available electronically?
Yes.
If you could send it to everybody, and folks, if you have places where you can post it, whether it's on your, a personal Facebook page or a physical location that you go, just the more we can get it out there, the more feedback we'll get. I think that'd be great.
Is everyone okay with, as it's drafted currently, any changes you want to see before it goes out? And so I did put the POCD email for the committee on there, as well as my phone number, in case people have questions. We're trying to make it more accessible for folks. If they have any problems completing it, we can help them out.
Just looking at it, first glance, I'd make Granby a little bit more, but this is for Granby.
Okay.
Because it's in a smaller font, and like when I first see it, if I see Granby, I'm like, oh, this impacts me. It's not like something I wouldn't want to do.
And maybe the Granby POCD committee wants to hear from you in bigger, sort of at the top, that people may not know what the plan of conservation and development really means, but vision for, or what is your vision for Granby? One of those catch lines, maybe a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Maybe even care about Granby? The Granby POCD committee wants to hear from you. Because we're not limiting it to residents, right?
Right.
I mean, we're business owners, and we
Yep.
want to hear from business owners too, so. But other than that.
Anybody that's interested in town.
Right.
Yeah.
Have your slide that sort of introduced the process and said, how can you contribute in the timeline? Was great at the session. When I look at this, the font's already getting too small in too many places, but it's like, there's something like, hey, this is part of the process to be complete. We're looking to have a draft by, something that just alludes to like, okay, well, if you tell us, give us your input by December, when do we hear back from you? Or maybe it's picking out one or two of the nuggets you had in the process
Okay.
overview. The font's getting pretty small already.
Yeah, and I also think we want to continue to send the message that early feedback is what we're looking for. But by the time we have a draft, it's a little late for feedback. Or at least input, feedback on the draft, but not like this should be in the draft.
All right, I will make some changes and get that out to everyone tomorrow then, so you can take another look at it.
Do you think we should say, like, where it says the POCD committee wants to hear from you, should we point out that we're in the process of updating our 10-year plan or something like so that they know why we're doing this?
Yeah, maybe I'll put that below, Peggy, before
Yeah.
it talks about what the POCD is. The POCD committee.
That smaller paragraph at the top has a lot of good juice in it, underneath the title, the POCD committee wants to hear from you. I mean, there's a lot of, it talks about the 10 years, talks about, give us your thoughts, a help guide, it's got all those things. So that might be, maybe that just moves up in
Yeah.
size and in impression.
Maybe have less verbiage and have it be larger. I think that a lot of people are concerned about the size of the font. And then say for more information, contact you or click on this or send your email.
Eye catchy, people can click on the QR code.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And plus you've given them the email, so you've given people a lot of ways. If they don't know what to do or
Right.
the survey doesn't work, you've given them a lot of ways to try to address that. So that I think is really good.
Is this your phone number?
That's the building department, so myself or Renee will grab that.
You got any calls yet?
No, so this hasn't gone out yet.
So
Yeah.
this is the first time your number is published,
Well, it's on the
Oh,
town
no, it's
website.
not, yeah.
but do they know to call her?
They call her for all their stuff with planning and zoning, and so just, yeah. And we've had some emails come into the POCD
Yeah,
mailbox already.
okay.
And if you go to the planning and zoning or to the PCOD link on, both are listed as links on the website, then it does say who Abby is and what she does.
Great, I will make those changes, figure out some new language and get that out.
Thank you.
Then Abby, just for the record of the meeting, you did give us comments, these came from Peggy LaRue.
Yep.
That came into the POCD mailbox, so everybody's got a copy. So that's announced.
So our next item is the review and discuss current POCD and proposed revisions. So
So, again, this is kind of where we get into some of the meat of where we're going. Again, Jamie did this a while ago, we can come up with our own flow of this, but, start going, looking at some of the sections we discuss. Do you like what's in there? We don't have all the public feedback yet, but what we know about as ourselves as residents, what we know as some of the feedback we've gotten, and just in general, as we talk to our friends and neighbors, we go through and say, this thing about, having, the streetlights painted purple, I'd rather than be pink or something, right? I'm getting into something ridiculous, but that's kind of, we like what's in the plan, so I think, Abby, what did you want to start off at? The first section, we got some data that we've gotten in that, back to statistics, so.
Yeah, do you want to start going through, I was thinking almost bringing, so save the fundamental values almost to the end
Yeah, we talked
of the
about
plan?
that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So maybe starting with some of the feedback we received about the 10-year vision with those different topic areas.
That makes sense.
So that's on page 11 of the plan. And also, Ken, you had pulled out, and you had some thoughts about organization too, with the different chapter areas.
Well, I put together last time, we got just a table of contents, just pulled things into, just so it's a little bit easier to scan through. The other thing that I've been working on is a comparison of the 1996 and the 2016, and tonight I just got the 2025. And it's really quite interesting to see, what's missing, what's changed, what's been moved around throughout those various parts. And if it seemed like that was going to be a useful tool, it really just, it's a side-by-side matrix. It just says, in each of these categories, what's not there, what's there. Then I'll keep, following on that. Otherwise, it's my academic study lesson, to become, aware of all of these things. But I think that could be kind of useful. The other thing I did notice as I was going through all of that is the structure is a little different between these. The 2005 was much shorter. It was half the length. It didn't have any of the kind of descriptive materials which show up in both the bracketing ones, which some of it was quite useful. So I think some of the decisions about, what's in, what's out, and maybe 2005 was just a weird year, I think at some point, just thinking about the structure, validating that, and then moving on to, all the parts that are in there. Some of them are obligated to put in, others are discretionary.
So does it make sense to start with the vision piece of it, and then when we get to each topic areas, we can look at the breakdown that you have showing the last plan with the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that I can, next week, I'll try to put the 2005 in with that, and then I can send that to you, and you can do whatever, however you think it's most...
I'd love to
Okay.
see that. If
Great.
you've done the work, I think it'd be great to see
Okay.
how, things, maybe thoughts have changed in town over that period. It's a good snapshot.
And it's interesting to see what didn't make it through the next, the next part. All right, so I'll put that together over the next probably 2 weeks and get that to you, and then you can distribute it however is appropriate.
Let's get it to every member of the group.
Thank you.
And if I send it, it'll be a big PDF kind of table or Excel table or however you want it, but basically it's just 3 columns and some coding fields, that break it down into the categories and that. Okay.
And then, so we can come back to this vision too after we're done, if people have a different opinion after we go through things.
Yeah, and especially too, because the online survey is still going on, and this
Yeah.
specifically asked about that too, so I think this will be a starting point, but definitely won't be finished with this by any means.
Yeah, I think
And I understand, and Abby, you're part of this too, is it's almost December, I was gonna say next month, But by January, the center study committee information
Yep.
should be done.
Yep.
Which will, maybe also guide us a little bit on this, because we have a
Yes.
whole section on the center.
Yes, yep.
And as well as the division. So
Mm-hmm.
we talked about it today, but our minds might be swayed a little bit after we see
Mhm.
that.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think we want to get into the granular stuff on the center section of our report until we have actually had a
But
chance
there's a
to
little
look at
section
that.
here in the vision, so. but
Yeah.
I think let's see what we think now, and then we might, if we change our mind, we'll be curious after the summary.
Mhm. So do you want to just take the first bit, so that overall the town of Granby remains as a rural residential community where, and go through all the bullet points?
Yeah, let's look, let's go through the bullet points, and if, we want to add some, or you think to take some, again, this is an open discussion, right? It's not, well, this was in the last one, we have to keep it, like you said, you've seen some changes, right? We might love it, and, a lot of, work went into this, but that doesn't mean that it's something that you see some changes. I mean, the last, even the 5 years with, things that have gone on in society have changed, so, yeah, 10. So let's go through the first section.
So the town continues to be well-managed and residents enjoy and appreciate living here.
I think we all would like that. Yeah.
So that stays. Residents enjoy a strong sense of community founded in our fundamental values. And again, we'll have to come back to the fundamental values. Residents feel safe in their homes and secure in the knowledge that their friends, neighbors, and local officials care about their well-being.
Yeah, I think we will.
Residents are greatly involved in the operation of the local government.
I think that's an important one, and, I've seen, and Peggy, maybe you have, and Chris, over the years, we've maybe seen a little less interest from our citizens to get involved on committees. And we have a lot of, Granby Works, as you are all here, the testimony is on volunteers. So that's an important vision for us.
A high value is placed on agricultural activities, from the production of crops and the keeping of livestock to backyard gardening and the preservation of barns.
I think that's still something that people value.
I would look at, that last part, we might, keeping the preservation of barns. I'm not sure what that.
Kind of hangs there.
Yeah.
I mean, the big themes have been preservation of farmland and open space. Nothing against barns, but it suddenly gets very specific.
Well, I think they're thinking about like the barn that they saved their whole
The
thing.
tobacco barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it deserves a broader recognition of historical preservation of dwellings, and buildings, the barns, the houses in Main Street or Sound of North Street. I saw something about Allenhurst and the cider mill out at North Granby Center.
Yeah, that's not there anymore.
Well, yeah, the actual cider mill, the building across the
I mean,
street.
it's interesting, when I think of barns now, I think more of the ones, for example, planning and zoning, we've gotten a lot of applications over the last couple of years for garages that are larger than what our regulations allow, and people have generally put up barn-like structures, and I think people like that. And I'm thinking specifically of the one that's near the corner of 10202 and in East Street.
Yes.
That large garage with that. It looks really nice. It doesn't look like an industrial building, or it doesn't really look, to my eye, like a garage at all. And I feel like there has been support for that in the community.
Yeah, I think it was more my saying was more for conservation of the buildings rather than, but I agree with you, there's been, the buildings that have been built recently are inconsistent.
It's almost
So-
sorry, I think we have a high values placed in agricultural activities and maybe the preservation of structures, because I agree the rest of that sentence
That
kind
would be
of.
good.
Yeah, and I almost, along those lines, Mark, maybe preservation of historic structures should be a separate bullet, because
Yeah.
we don't actually have
Right.
historic preservation is a topic, but it's not actually like a specific
I agree.
subpart. So maybe, we'll do
That
a separate
makes
bullet.
As you go through and pull out all of the individual headings, and you pull out all of the individual paragraphs, and you start rolling them up, you do start seeing there's quite a bit in the text about barns. There's quite a bit in about other historical structures and that. So as one of the things that I've noticed is that there's not a lot of direct linkage. It's all kind of, we preserve, and then there's a little bit of here, and there's a little bit in the center, and there's a little bit in historic things. But the linkage between the vision and the implementation and the goals is still a little weak. And we may want to consider whether, if it shows up in the vision, well, it ought to at least kind of link back to the implementation that says we're honoring this by putting the right words in there, and they're not separate entities. They're just the top kind of roll up of all of these concepts.
So thinking here then about adding another bullet point, preservation of historic structures. And should we do something broader in properties of cultural significance? To kind of encompass, what was mentioned about the cider mill or.
I think you need structures, I don't know.
I think that covers it.
Thanks. Yeah.
I mean, you can talk about the North Granby, the original North Granby firehouse, since it's storage, granted that's under the governance of the fire department, but it's since they're untouched, effectively rotting away.
I never knew that was the firehouse.
Yeah, the white rock.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
That was the original, or one of the originals.
Maybe just say historic structures and properties. That's
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
yeah.
But if we take out the word barns, does that mean we're abandoning barns? Should we say historic
You could say
structures,
including-
barns?
Maybe historic.
and- What's that?
A historical structure. I mean, I don't think it precludes them.
Well, what if they're not historical barns?
Isn't that what preservation means, though? Preserving historical or old buildings? Probably.
Is your concern that people that have a newer barn will tear it down regardless?
No, I think the concern is that the message we would be sending is that we don't really care about preserving barns. When you have some language in the existing document and then you take it out and you don't refer to barns, then I think it can.
I suppose you could put something.
We don't care about
like
barns.
houses, barns.
I don't know if I'd want to save every barn, because some barns need to be torn down after a point,
So
right?
you're anti-barn.
So barns to me is just, it's broad, like, I look at the new barns, like the guy up here on 189 built those 3 beautiful tobacco barns. I think that was a nice addition to town.
I think it's the first agricultural barns, really, that ever been
They've been
built.
built in a long time, so. I hear you saying, Peg, I don't know how you word it, that it's,
So you're saying we want to encourage people building barns in addition to
yeah, if you
preserving
have a
them.
historic, if the cider mill, since I lived here, since we were talking about it, it was always falling down and there's never, the sign was, I never even knew really what it was.
Yeah.
I guess it was historic, but, if we had that in there, we've been able to do something.
It was more than historic, it was on the register.
Register, yeah.
There was no money for it, so.
There was plenty of money for it.
But we have, that would be in here for the historic structures. I mean, we could put historic structures including barns.
Yeah, why I was saying, yeah, so as
Yeah,
not to.
so we don't lose it.
Right, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Not to focus too much on structure, and I apologize about if it is too much, but these goals that are listed here, or the 10-year vision, it follows a completely different structure than the rest of the document. I mean, the rest of the document has the 10 individual areas. We talk about housing, we talk about all these areas. They're sort of commingled, they're kind of mixed here, there's no direct relationship, but if that's intentional, then, we're fuzzing it up a little bit, just in the what it needs to be done. But I would at least then, suggest as we go through this, that we look back to make sure that everything that's in the 10 major sections and everything that's in the implementation somehow finds a home in the vision, because if it doesn't, I mean, Barnes is way back in the implementation and it rolls up into one of the other historical preservation, and then here it ends up in residential community, and so we've kind of, moved in the organizational flow a little bit around. It's probably most useful for just sort of keeping track. It's probably not essential. I mean, you're just required to have a vision, of what you want, and that's fine. And we want it to be quick and easy, so people read this and say, yeah, man, I like that. But I think that perhaps maybe not spending a whole bunch of time on the detail of the vision until we're further along on the content, because the vision really is just like the fundamental values. They both are rolling up the content. Because if our content doesn't support the vision, then it's not worth it. And, so I think perhaps the vision's a little bit early to start now, maybe before we know where all the rest of the parts are. But maybe validating that the 10 major sections are the right things. I guess they're statutorily required, basically, and then how we want to go through those to make sure those are correct and reflective, and then pull out the things that go back into the vision from them.
It almost seems to me that this is more of an aesthetic, really, that the last point in this paragraph is the rural residential character of the town has been preserved. And I think when people think about what makes Granby special, they are talking about fields and agricultural buildings, both old and new. And I think it is more visionary as to how people feel about the town. So I don't think it's as much a punch list of what we want to see more of or less of, but it is what kind of makes us what we think Granby is, which is kind of an old farming community that we value to some degree, at least. Those old-fashioned values of raising livestock and crops and keeping buildings you can't build buildings if you don't have a purpose for them. So they have to have a purpose.
So Ken, are you saying do something even more high level?
No, I mean, I think that's why this is
overarching?
I think that's why that paragraph is in there, written the way it is, because it kind of supports the last line in that paragraph, which is this rural residential character of the town. Whenever there's something new, people question whether we're veering away from our rural residential character. Anything new, typically, this question is this who we are as a town? And people like the idea of being a rural residential town that's been preserved. And when they see barns, like the beautiful barn on Simsbury Road, and those really stand out. And so I don't think the barns were put in there to preserve barns. It's more to preserve sort of the character of the town, and we see value in that.
I also think there's two parts. This is like the preamble to this document, a big preamble. And it's the fundamental values are kind of how we all feel, and we're going to get back to this. This here is like, okay, we have a vision. We think this is it. And the vision's being supported by these sections, right? So I think this is a key part that, let's just say, hey, we all don't think the town center should be vibrant. Opposite of what this is. Well, the section on town center is going to reflect that. But it gives, this might be too long. It's a fairly wordy part, and maybe it needs to be condensed. And I'm not against that either, just to give a more summary. Some of the comments I have that I shared with Abby is there's some flowery language in this, right? A little extra adjectives. Remember
Humor.
some humor, the smell of manure or something there. Maybe we can cut down on some of that. Well, maybe we go through these and then we can go back and also say, like you said, Ken, well, these are all considered. And I actually want to ask this group, what is a rural residential character? Because I look at where we live, since I've been here, and then I drive 15, 20 minutes west, that's rural. You know, Heartland and,
Well,
you know,
but rural is relative to what you're comparing it to.
right, so,
Right, I mean, if you compare it to Southington,
that's right, so.
then this is
you know,
very rural.
You know, it has a different meaning to people.
Mhm.
Because I talk to my friends up there, and they're like, you guys aren't rural, we're rural.
Western Heartland?
Yes.
I feel, to me, rural,
Like, we're
resi-
rural and Simsbury's not, right?
to me, rural residential means a community that still has a fair amount of
Yep.
rural components to it, but it is a comfortable place to live. I mean, if you live in, say, you know, if you live in Hartford, in Heartland, or even if you live way west in Litchfield County, like in Sharon or Kent, yeah, that's
Yeah.
rural, but it takes you half an hour, 45 minutes to get to the grocery store.
I
So
say
it's-
the time to the grocery store metric is,
Most people that.
I think it's, in my head, it is a useful metric. I have a certain maximum amount of time that I'm willing to spend on that.
Yeah, most people that grew up here would consider K Street like outer reaches. And you won't get anybody moving in there. They usually are locals that have moved out that way.
But I think rural residential to me means, yes, it's rural, it has a rural appearance to it, has a rural feel to it, but it's not like living where the nearest hospital is 2 hours away.
Right.
There's really that balance, just like so many things, balancing the rural with the residential. And that's really what the purpose of the plan is to help
Yeah.
people understand
So I
the
think we're
balance.
kind of proud that we've kept somewhat of this rural feeling, even though we've got a lot of residential development.
And a lot of kind of convenient amenities.
and access to 3 grocery stores.
Yeah, which is incredible.
And you can buy a pair of socks now that you couldn't before TJ Maxx. You
That's
know,
what Johnny Avery's had.
I mean,
Only 2 colors.
yeah.
No, that's good, I mean, because it means different things to people, but I like the discussion on it, I think it's, that's why we're here.
I also think those that live closer to the center don't experience the ruralness of a K Street or, you know.
Or even North Granby.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
But they enjoy the convenience.
correct. Yeah, nothing against it, but I know
Right.
I've met people in town. The woman said, I've never been
You're right.
down Lewis. How do you live in town for 20 years? And they live within a half mile of Lewis Street. Like, it's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah.
People didn't know all the things going on at the farm, local farm.
Mhm.
So I think it's where your normal patterns, and if it doesn't take you to the rural part of town. But yes, I would agree with your statement.
So the U.S. Department of Agriculture defines rural as not in the city.
Not in-
Well, not as
So we've already done a much better job of describing it
Yes.
now. And we didn't even get paid.
Outlying counties that are economically tied to the central counties as measured by labor force commuting.
But I think the way we are right now, we have a nice balance.
I agree.
You know, you can get what you need in the center and,
I mean, Department of Ag actually makes mortgages in Granby because it qualifies
That's right.
as a rural town. That I don't know that Simsbury,
No,
I wouldn't think it does.
so we are still recognized by the Department of Agriculture as a place that they're willing to put mortgage
Yeah.
money in.
but has that been tested? I say tested. Has anybody applied for that? I mean, Stony Hill, I know, has a USDA mortgage, but has anybody looked for
If
that?
you want to build a small house, they do have money available.
Oh,
And the interest rates are slightly less than there's not a big savings, but it does mean that you can qualify for a USDA loan.
okay.
I think the Cowards used that when they bought the farm.
Oh, she will.
just as I went down just through those five, or those bullets, but starting with number 5 and number 6, that really are those two balance, because one of them, a high value is placed on agricultural activities for the production of crops, and then the second one, residents also, I'm adding, recognize the importance of solid education, recreational and businesses. That's that balance, so that those two. But it's commingled with, active participation, volunteering, safety, those other types of things. But if this, it looks like this is really a fundamental, the rural residential is really a fundamental, that's almost the title of what, in some ways, what's happening.
It feels that way to me. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like when I think about why I like living here, that's what I really think about, the balance between, relative convenience and not 5-lane highways.
We don't mind being stopped by a herd of turkeys that are meandering
No,
across the road.
unless I'm late for a meeting, I think it's kind of charming.
And the center provides the higher concentration of the residential for people who might live there and not move around as much. Perhaps they don't even drive, but they have the residential benefits, but they don't have the rural benefits as much. Other people who live 20 miles away from the center or 18 miles away from the center have a lot more of the rural content, but they can still find the pair of socks, or whatever you want. And so I really like that as being, that's one of those key balances, and I think that might get lost a little bit here. Maybe just reorganize some of the points and put those at the top, and then maybe some of the safety and strong sense of community, maybe those kind of are just come down a little bit further. But we've
I like
set our
that
mark.
idea. After reading some of this, I'd like to see if we can get it more concise, right? Instead of, and I'm not just saying it to make it smaller, but to get our point across. And I think to your point is, we're talking about all that in here, right? So let's not reinvent the wheel up in the front. And as we do this balance, and you're bringing back some memories from last time, we're going to have conflicting ideals, right? One of them that comes to mind is that we just talked about bike paths and sidewalks. Well, that's not rural. I remember bringing up shoulders on roads, and somebody says, I like my road windy and narrow, it's rural, right? And we're going to have that conflict that's inherent with this rural residential, and it's a very difficult balancing act. I know on zoning, that's exactly what it is. It's a balancing act, and we have the existing code, and some people like it, some people hate it, some people don't even know what it is, but we're gonna see that as we go through the plan. We're gonna have one section that says, yeah, we want all kinds of commercial. The next one is don't build anything else.
And kind of been rhetorical, because this will be finalized months from now, but from the discussion that's occurred, and I've been putting a tick mark on the page every time somebody says the word balance probably ought to appear in there.
I think it'll go right in. I think and we're gonna number this, right, for better ordering. The bullets that we just talked about, agricultural balancing, we have agricultural, open space, education, those are all things that we have to weave, is that right?
Yeah.
Weave together.
Well, the term safety jumped out at me,
Yeah.
that is, that's a value that is hard to find. I have an Airbnb and people lock every door and window, and we haven't locked our house in like 20 years, and people come and they hit
Now they know because you're on the internet. Everybody go there.
No, but
Go ahead,
people
tell us your
feel,
address.
people feel safe here, and that creates a wonderful environment to live in and to raise children in safety. So when I first moved onto Silky Road, I asked some people, so what kind of crime issues do you have here? And they said, well, 20 years ago, some neighbor kids broke into a car, but their parents made them return the stuff and apologize. That was about 20 years ago, they said.
Well, there have been, in some parts of town, there have been some of these car break-ins for people who leave their cars in the driveway. And so I think that like a lot of things, I think, and this is going to be hard to integrate into the plan too. I think different parts of town experience the town differently.
That's right.
People who live in different parts of town have very different experience.
our crime rate is 9 times lower than the national average. That's
Oh, I
pretty
totally
safe.
believe that.
That's pretty safe.
Yeah, and I don't, it's not something I think about,
Right.
in terms of, but it is, I think in the parts of town that are more densely populated, it's a different experience.
And
That's all
10
I'm saying.
years from now, it's going to change because, as things change, that's changing. So,
That's our third bullet, right? Residents feel safe, so.
And I think that's still, I think that's still a true statement. I just think that,
No, I remember that's one we take, you don't think about it because you don't have to think about it, but it's good that we're, I know our current, police chief's been engaged and, it's good to see, out in the community, the new resource officer, so it's good.
Points I had were for, you noted that the local government isn't having as much engagement from a broader appeal. I don't know if that's something that should be added as a guide principle for the document or not. I don't know if that's true.
well, maybe that's more like a goal to get younger people
Yeah.
engaged so that as the people who volunteer start to be less willing to do so, other, the younger folks who are in town do that.
The
And maybe
elder
that,
state starts stepping down.
right. And then, well, and also maybe that dovetails too with why it's an important value to keep young people in town, not
Yeah.
have this just be solely not just have this be a graying community that we'd like to see some of the kids that are raised here stay here.
and even the linkages from safety, I was just trying to think in my head, well, how does safety, because there really isn't a section later on. I mean, it talks about the police and that, but just one little teeny bit. It's not a big thing. But, senior services, youth services, the police, the fire, those all provide, that all fits under that top level, feeling safe because of the ambulance, because of the fire department, because of the police department, because of the school system, people care because of the neighbors, and so that helps, frame why the other things are in here, because those are the things that deliver on safety.
Well, if you think about our fire and our ambulance, that's all volunteers. And I think
Didn't
that's,
the ambulance go private? The ambulance went private.
I think the
It's
ambulance
always
paid.
sort of been,
They're paid, they're
Yeah.
paid,
it's always sort of been,
fires on.
they,
Fire was
they have some fundraising.
I mean, we had to have somebody taken out of our house by ambulance in April, and I have to say I was incredibly impressed. They got there quickly. He was a big guy. They realized they had the wrong people to get him out of the house. They called a different car with stronger people.
And that's gonna go in the plan. We just talked about volunteers and safety. You got, you said green, I'm getting grayer. But, we need volunteers that wanna be in the fire department, right? And if we can't attract them, that's gonna impact town in a negative way. Right? If we've taken for granted that we have all these services that maybe it's been too silent in the plan, and we need to address that. Part of the goals of what we're looking to do here is keep the community vibrant to have these services.
Yeah, I think that is important. I think that is an important part of what.
A lot ties back to, you probably hit this, you can check this on your box a lot. We're gonna talk about housing, right? And Ken, you probably see it in your business of, do you see a lot of first-time buyers in Granby?
400,000 and up, I mean, they have to be well-off first-time buyers.
I was looking at that because the median income is 116. It's, the home costs are 4 times that rate, or just about. I mean,
And that ratio isn't too far off,
That's kind of,
because it used to be 28% of your income for housing, so that's not too far off.
yeah, but you're accounting for interest rates in that 28%.
Well, I've been in this business long enough to remember 18.5% interest. So
Yes, the 70s.
80s, yeah.
80s.
But, another thing to think about with emergency services, we're working on the possibility of building more elderly housing, the Kern School. So the need is going to increase, and I think that's a big impact too. on the importance of safety and response of fire and ambulance.
Well, we have the bullet, and I think we're starting to go down a rabbit hole. We'll maybe start hitting some, but I think the summary I had from this, we will maybe make a mention of preservation of historic structures and properties, and we'll maybe take out and consolidate some of the language in this section and maybe reprioritize. If everybody has some ideas, send them into Abby on it, and Abby, I might take some of my notes and send you some ideas. I think we'll reorder some of these and make the agriculture and education, those bullets, maybe move them up top. And we can present that back to you guys as we go. My idea is when we have these meetings, the weeks in between the next one, Abby will work on, hey, this is what you guys talked about. Do you like it? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, also people, since we're trying to limit these meetings to 2 hours, also, if you have more specific comments that you'd like Abby to look at, we can do that by email too, and maybe try to keep our conversation here a little bit higher.
Can I ask a structural question? What's the difference between the fundamental values and the vision, in our opinion? I mean, because again, different words. Scenic roads is a fundamental value, but it doesn't necessarily propagate through the rest of the stuff. So where are we going with the vision and the fundamental values?
Are you thinking that maybe they're really not distinct enough to require two separate sections?
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from.
Because, it seems like we're saying the same thing.
Are they
just in
required that
different
long?
fashions.
I didn't think so. So maybe we don't really need two. Maybe they're really kind of the same. I mean, this is when I read the whole plan, I feel like the vision section is easier to read and digest, and it's also easier to look at what we want, the description and the action items we come up with, and that translates easier back to the vision section and then the fundamental values. And I like your thinking of actually numbering rather than bullets. I think that's
going to go through the whole
makes
thing
it
as you started.
much clearer to read and to digest than just bullet
And to refer to.
I mean, this is almost, it's not really like visions, maybe the wrong, these pages are what this document's going to be talking about. This is how Granby feels. And here's your executive summary. As you read this document, you're going to say that this document's going to talk about solid education, safety, all these things in here. When you get to the town center section, it's going to talk about these. I'm not disagreeing. I kind of think that the beginning's very good values, but it is very wordy and I think duplicative.
It's also because of the structure of it.
Yeah.
It's hard, if you're just sitting down, let's say I'm sitting down to read this plan, and all I really care about is housing.
I mean, you can
That's
have
what
the
I'm
housing
interested in.
paragraph in the housing section.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You can have the scenic roads in the transport section.
In reading it the first time, I found that those sections up front really seems like a header to the section later.
Yeah.
That's good. Fundamental value of residents, fundamental value.
Yeah, I like that approach a lot, about that making these fundamental values kind of the paragraph that introduces each section.
Yeah.
And then having more of the vision being the
Yeah, they
executive
probably
summary,
should-
like you're saying.
Yeah, there probably should just be an explanation up front of what the document really is.
I like
to
that,
do,
I like that. I like that structure.
the bullets, and then move the,
That's a good idea.
that's it, I'm done for the week.
All right, we're done. Let's get.
An hour and 10.
No, I think that'll make it easier to read. It also, one of the audiences for this is the different town boards, and it'll be more useful structured that way, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if the intent was originally that it's read by the town people, but again, it reads like a novel up front, so we're beating a dead horse this week.
No, I think, I like when we get to when we get to the section, we'll take the relative fundamental value and see if it makes sense to put it into that section. And if it doesn't, then maybe it doesn't be in, it's not that it's not important, but it doesn't maybe have to be in this document. I like it.
And by pulling it out separately and not pulling out some other stuff, we kind of make some of these things, whether it's like, the waterways and water bodies, it's highlighted here, but it's not highlighted in the same fashion later on when we get to implementation.
Right, so it's almost like they don't totally match.
Yeah.
I think, and then maybe too, when we move these fundamental values to the intro part of each issue, maybe these fundamental values paragraphs are going to get shorter too. It won't just be a one-to-one.
It's almost transportation section. Our fundamental values related to transportation are.
Yeah.
Here's our goals for 10 years. Here's how we're going to implement it.
Yeah.
And then it's all one package. Like you say, transportation folks don't have to paw through everything. They can just pull out.
Right, because some people will only be interested in a couple of the issues. I think it'll make it more focused if we structure it that way. I like that idea.
And I think I can see this, as you guys are talking, I'm like, well, the town center could be merged with commercial development section, right? Make bullets.
It's a subsection
Correct.
of commercial development,
Yeah.
although it's residential and,
Well, you'd have both.
Yeah.
You'd have, town center, commercial
Yeah.
development, mixed residential.
Yeah.
I just think it'll make it easier for people to read and digest, and also to use just the parts they're interested
it's a reference document.
in.
Should we move on to
Let's
the next set of bullets?
sort of whether we keep them or not, I think this is a good, at least it gets a vibe from the group here about what you think about the bullets that are in there, not whether they should be there or not, if you like the topic, right?
Yeah.
So we talked about barns, so now let's talk about sewers and gas.
One pause on that, just looking at the table of contents, I'd say let's keep going through the bullets, but if I look at the table of contents and there's kind of 10 sections there's 10 sections, but then on top of that, there's goals and implementation, the 10-year vision, which we're looking at, and then maybe a repackaging of, it would be great for me to know, in January, we're going to come in and we're going to talk about population and demographics and environment. And in February, we're going to talk about, and in March, we're going to talk about.
Oh, you mean for purposes of planning our meeting?
Right, so I mean, I think what's going on right now is great, but I'd really love to leave here tonight saying oh, you know what, if we're getting acquainted with the document or more acquainted with the document, but we need to get from, A to B in the next 6 months. And so, it looks like we can keep with once a month meetings, but we have to review 3 sections per month to get there or something.
How would you feel about assigning kind of a subcommittee of people to do the sections? Because if you think about if you look at the table of contents, and I think that's a good thing for us to do.
You have to do two, at least 2 per month.
Right, so do we want to say to people, everybody's going to read everything, but these folks are going to focus on these, and these folks are going to focus on these, and then we'll share when we get here? Is that going to be a more efficient use of our time than everybody trying to do everything?
Jean, you were on the last one, right?
Yeah, that's what we did last time. We broke up into groups and then came back.
I think we did it during the meeting.
We did, you're right.
Oh, you mean like during the meeting?
Yeah.
The 3 of us would go here, and the 3 of
Yeah, then did we come together at the end of the meeting?
Yeah. Came back.
Did that work well? Do you think?
We met twice a month.
Yeah, we had a long time.
We had a really long time.
Okay.
I think on our schedule.
It doesn't work.
I think it works if we all come in, I agree with you and say, we're gonna go through this tonight, and then next meeting, we're gonna go through the survey. No, excuse me, not the survey, that's January.
January.
December, when we pick a date, to your point, we'll start putting on the agenda, we're gonna start going through population and demographics, right? Or whatever it is.
Yeah, and truthfully, so with population and demographics, if everyone is okay with it.
Some are easier.
I just
Yeah.
plan on, I can just write that section. I've already
Data.
pulled all the data together.
Yeah.
So that'll just simply be an update that I would just want to present to you and you can let me know of any edits. So I think,
So
like,
that's really
I-
just factual.
yeah, so I
That's
can
fine.
handle doing the introduction, the demographics, kind of the existing conditions piece of it. But I think, yeah, the committee would be helpful to focus on the different topic areas.
Another way is like, oh, okay, so we come in and, well, yeah, it would just be helpful to say that, okay, gee, I mean, I've been through the document a couple of times, but hey, we're going to come in and we're going to talk about, you know, topics A, B, and C in this meeting, and let's give ourselves a goal to say, oh, we really ought to be done with the sections by, I'm not sure what the right month is, but for argument's sake, I don't know, I'll say April. So then that leaves maybe, well, or March, and April, May is ensuring that the front end of this, the overall statements and the implementation plan have sufficient amount of time to be worked. Because the first draft is when again? July?
No, targeting June.
June?
Mhm.
Okay.
So that would, if we're going to do what you suggest, which I think makes a lot of sense, that would give us 5 months, five meetings, and we may have to add extra ones. I think we all have to accept
Right.
that. But
Said that.
if we count up the topics that are left, assuming that Abby's going to be responsible for drafting population and demographics, that's what, that looks like,
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
yeah, so 5, then we mean, most months would be 2 topics, and then 1 month it would be 1.
So there's 9 topics below population demographics.
Right, and we have 5.
But then there's the whole implementation plan, so that, I imagine that's
Well,
gonna be.
That's not really something that'll come out.
I think
Oh, okay, sorry.
depends.
I was squeezing that into the June.
Yeah, with the organization, with the chapter, it's going to be, you know, the overarching vision, the goals, and so the implementation is going to be all part of each chapter. So it's going to look at,
Okay.
and that's what Ken is going to work on, organizing the structure, like what we have now, and pulling it out so it's more bite-sized pieces for,
Got it.
I think, which will speed up the work quite a
Okay.
bit,
I
actually.
do too.
Because we sort of handed out that list of just the goals, and if you go through the goals and the implementation now, they still don't link real well, because there's no linkage between the implementation and the goals. There's just, we got 5 goals and here's 15 implementations, and somehow they all, you know,
Okay.
support each other. There's not one-to-ones or one-to-manys or anything like that. But I think that's I think that it will really simplify the activities if rather than having the introductory stuff and the visions and all that, we got 10 chapters, basically, and each chapter has, you know, the guiding principles of whatever you want to call them, the fundamental values, and then has the goals, and then has the implementation, and then the only part missing from the implementation plan is priority and who owns it, you know, which can maybe even be put in there, so you don't have to have 2 documents.
So then
All possible.
chapter development through May,
Yep.
it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're aiming, at least I have it in my mind, for a bit more of a streamlined chapter format, which I think it will just all flow really nicely together and be more concise. And the implementation will just be baked into
Would
it.
you foresee January's meeting, though, pretty much being devoted to the feedback from the survey?
Yes,
Yeah.
at least for half of it, yeah.
Okay, so then February through May is chapter by chapter.
We're gonna go, if Abby has the data, like the population and demographics is a good, that's nice. Where are we, right? We
Yeah,
saw,
right.
you know, the median age is higher. Where are we with our population? That, we'll definitely talk about that at the next meeting. If we can get into a chapter, we will. We have to put it on the agenda to start. Because I agree with you, January, we're gonna take the feedback from the public study. If Abby has it, which once it's digested, I'd all like to have it ahead of time so I can read through it. And I'm gonna kind of go try to pick out, we're gonna have to take out some comments like blow up the center, like some ridiculous comments, right? And those you'll have to take out, and get the core of what people mean on the comments. And
Yeah, and a consensus.
not everybody, like, when I take a survey, I very rarely type in comments unless I'm usually upset at something. Like, you know.
Or you're having a bad day.
Yeah, but you have to look at those, the numbers, and I haven't had statistics in a long time, but there's meanings in how the sample size, and we have a sample size that's now statistically relevant of 110. So we can go through all that in January, because I don't want to spend the whole 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever we're here, going through that. I want to have us, as we're talking the sections, go like, oh yeah, the public said they're really interested in more street signs, right? So when we get to that section, we can kind of remember what we had in the survey, right?
Yeah, I like that.
And it helps us validate, because if we go through and we say, okay, streetlights, is it in the plan? Yeah, it's in the plan. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Sidewalks, is it in? Okay, we got a lot on sidewalks, and that means so we don't miss things just because we've got so much stuff, that.
Yeah, January's not that we look at the survey and we put it over here. We're going to get to the town center section. We're going to have to look at those comments in the survey on the center. Right? Anyway, I'll be quiet. I'll talk too much.
No, you didn't.
My
So,
wife tells me I talk too much.
well, she likes everything right. That's why she runs a newspaper.
But yeah, so we'll work on,
2 to 3 chapters per month.
yes.
Yep.
And if we get something that's important, like we just said, I'm fully expecting we're going to have a special meeting there. Because as you can see, we just went through however many bullet points here, right, in an hour and 20 minutes, whatever, right? And remember, Gene, there's some sections we'll talk a lot about.
Actually, that would be helpful before we, when we're done with this discussion for tonight, and we're trying to dole out the topics to the meetings. It'd be good to hear from you guys, since you went through this before, what ones are, oh, that's a really long, that's a time-consuming one. As opposed, oh, that one's not, that isn't really that controversial, that doesn't take that long.
I don't know if my memory's that
Pair
clear.
them up a little bit. We can partly tell by how long the sections are in plan too, but
Population demographics doesn't take long.
I wouldn't think. But I'm even thinking like open space, we just describe how much open space there is and where it is and who owns it.
I mean, I think that
Good fact.
the town center is going to be taking a long time, and we talked about it last time, and it always will continue to be we saw the comments here, it's the housing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing just, and I'm not pushing this, I'm just offering it up. I did do, when I went through all of these, like, big paragraphs, I broke them into messages. So, I mean, just carriage your turn, so this, maybe instead of a paragraph, it had 10 messages and it had some stuff,
Carriage return, I haven't heard that.
Well, I know. Okay, so, but that I will try to, put in something up that I send Abby in another week or two, because then you can kind of go down and say, yeah, that looks good, that looks good. Oh, well, that's, ancient history, take it out, or that never happened, or we lost the battle on that. And then say, well, gee, we're missing sidewalks or whatever it is, and then shove it in, because then you know that it goes there, or it's talked about in the wrong place. And we've got some of that stuff where it's talked about in 2 places, like the center talks about sidewalks for the center, which is fine, and then we have other places in transportation that talks about sidewalks, which perfectly fine, but we just need to know that where we have the stuff and that it doesn't.
Or we could actually say, sidewalks, please see paragraph 3,
Right.
pages 3 through 4. I do think streamlining it is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Having-
very wordy.
Yeah, and it's hard to follow.
Yeah. Would anyone be interested in starting the meetings earlier?
I was thinking about that. I could certainly do 6:30.
I can.
What about?
I know you working people sometimes.
Yeah, that's where you
working people.
I just think we might get more done if our minds were fresher.
No, I don't have a problem meeting this long, but do people want to stay longer? Right?
That would give us the option of staying longer if we needed to.
Might have to check with other staff too.
Yeah, yeah.
So can I get back to you?
We'll refer that to committee notes.
Okay, just a thought.
Let's just get in, whether we can keep in the section, I'd just like to let's get the vibe on some of this. Since it's in front of us and it is from the last time, we can kind of get the vibe of what you all think about some of this from our view. So, the last plan we talked about, if you look through it, we have existing infrastructure, right? If you look at the town zoning and the plan, it's basically evolved around where that infrastructure goes, which is, it was water and sewer. Gas wasn't as big of a driver. And I don't think it still is a driver, Abby, because the capacity for gas is limited, right? So it's really on public water and sewer is where you're going to see, if the plan goes that way, if you want to see more multi-unit housing, larger commercial scale, it's going to be tied to first the sewer and then the water. So if you look at what's in town today, it's all on sewer and public water.
Right.
That's, do we want to, what's the people's thoughts on expanding? I don't even know if it's possible to expand public water and sewer. I know the selectmen, I don't know if you've been on the sewer study with the board of selectmen?
I was not on that committee.
Okay, because I know there was a big review of that not too long ago, so we probably want to look at, what's the goals for us? Do we want to increase the sewer capacity, right? Or would that be a goal of town? And there's two ways to do sewer capacity. One is we get a certain allotment from Simsbury where it goes. So that's one aspect, and the second is physical constraints. Simsbury could give us more, but the pipe can only handle so much.
Right.
And so, that would be something we have a goal. So in water, we have, just for background for the committee, we have two sources of public water, Abby, is that
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
We have the Stammerbrook Water District, which basically covers
Center town.
the center up to, does it go up to McLean's?
You mean Meadowbrook?
Or Meadowbrook, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it stops
Well,
kind of
it's
at,
actually, it's just short of the brook.
and
yeah.
it stops by
It
the,
stops by on the other side of the brook by Stop and Shop. It's brook to brook to brook. So
brook to brook, and then the rest of it comes from,
Aquarium in the
Aquarium.
southern part.
so,
But for those services, like, for example, with sewer, we have X number of, is it done by bedroom units? We have a certain number of units available in our contract with Simsbury.
So it's by gallons per day.
Okay.
Yep.
But eventually you divide that back to number of bedrooms. And my impression, listening to some of the dialogue when that report was done about 6 months ago, is, okay, we have space for about another Station 280 in terms of construction. Well, okay, it's either a Station 280 or it's a bunch of single-family homes, or it's a bunch of townhomes. I mean, however you sort of structure the bedrooms, it was a visual, but I know it is a specific, there's a specific amount. And I guess for me, for a document like this, is the question expansion, or is the question just noting, we have the following space, we used X amount in the last 10 years, are we just queuing up the question that says, we have this amount remaining in this document, is that sufficient? And then we kind of just leave it, and then it becomes the to-do of, I'm not sure which committee, to go, is that sufficient? And to look at the breakpoints. I can handle 300 more bedrooms in my town center, but if I tried to go to 500, then I need the $20 million project to put in the bigger pipe, if Simsbury could even handle it. So again, is this just queuing up what we have, and then saying that the to-do is to then to have somebody evaluate, is that sufficient or not?
So I don't know that I totally follow your question.
So the bullet here is modest expansion. Okay, modest expansion of public water, sewer, and natural gas lines. To me, retired professional engineer who built capital projects. To me, this says somebody's concluded we need more. I don't know that or not. It isn't the point of this just to articulate what our contract with Simsbury has available for construction.
Right, which we know, it's 353 and change gallons
Okay.
per day, yep.
Right.
And we know what our current flow is.
Which is how much?
Which is about, I believe it was 122,000-ish gallons per day last year.
Right, so you're not even at 50%.
Correct.
I don't know if that includes all of Station 280 being fully occupied yet.
Yeah, most of it
Right.
was, coming online.
So my guerrilla math says, oh, in the last X number of years or decades, you have crept up to something less than 50% of the capacity you have available. Ergo, we're good.
Well, so it gets a little bit more nuanced though,
Okay.
because the flow study that was done
Yep.
identified that there is a capacity constraint in the 10-inch line that runs down Salmon Brook Street.
Okay.
So with that capacity constraint, we could never discharge
Achieve.
the 353 gallons per
Okay.
day unless there are upgrades or some sort of changes made to that 10-inch line.
Got it.
So I think the question about the modest expansion, it could be looking at, is there support for considering changes to allow that capacity? But then it also addresses where the sewer service area should be. So that is required by state statute as part of the POCD, is looking at your sewer service area. The current plan does recommend some changes to that service area, like pulling out what's shown in the northern end of it and looking at maybe an expansion to pull in more in the southern portion of town. So it's,
No, that's great. And then as you say that, to me, it would morph this bullet point to say that although this is going to be a little too wordy, so we'd have to just slow it down. Although we have capacity at the Simsbury plant for X, we are constrained by, the question here is like, do you want to actually move that constraint? Or how much more development could occur until we hit the constraint in the 10-inch line that you mentioned?
right, which again, the flow study identifies a range
Right.
of excess or gallons per day that could be flowed before there is that capacity constraint. But I think the vision needs to be higher level than that. I think the kind of in the weeds with the sewer service area and flow and looking at build out, that goes into the chapter section on the infrastructure.
And it seems that at the preamble kind of level, it's, 10 years, over the next 10 years, everybody has to recognize that sewer and water is a constraint. We can't just put stuff, where we want to because it's constrained. And so how do you use that constraint for the best benefit of Granby over the next 10 years? And if that constraint is going to be too limiting, when, 5 years from now, do you do a sewer study? Do you put in new pipes? Do we expand? What would be the guidance looking forward to our 10-year forward selves when, what should we have done with the sewers when we're 10 years from now looking backwards? And really finding, just like you're saying, the constraints. I mean, it's constraining commercial development and some
But is it?
residential development.
But
Well,
I don't know if it is or it isn't.
I think that's the missing piece is
Yeah.
what do we want
Yeah,
to
I was gonna
use
say
this
the
expanded capacity for?
This is a plan, so again, you guys are gonna hear me do ridiculous things because that's how I examine it. And those listening on TV, this isn't what I mean, but we want to put an Empire State Building in the center of town. But in order to do that, we have to redo the sewer. Right.
And that's-
So
and that
if we have
costs
a-
this.
If we have the cost that we don't get into that, what we do is we put in the plan, in order to meet this goal of the Empire State Building in the center of town, we have to upgrade the sewer. That's how I look at it. We do, if the, going back to more realistic thing, let's just say people said in the housing things, we need more multifamily on this street or that street. Okay, that's great, but we need to extend the sewer line there. And by the way, if we extend it, we also have to fix Salmon Brook Street. So we'd identify that in the plan as to meet this goal, this has to happen, which is town infrastructure. Might that make sense?
Makes sense.
Because I don't know how much the 10-inch pipe can take. It can take another 10%, 20%, whatever it can take. We would have to know that, okay, our plan can't be supported by infrastructure. And it's the same with I don't know how much more Salmon Brook can do. I don't know how much more Aquarius can do as far as water. Right? We'll maybe have to get some of that data when we get to those. It's going to be in the housing section. I don't think commercial uses as much sewer and water as residential.
Yeah, it depends on the user, but typically, it's
Yeah.
going to be a lower flow, for the developments we see here.
So
for
can we
commercial.
put in our plan to improve the infrastructure in the next 10 years. So
If
that's
we feel that that is needed to support
Yeah.
the overall, what we put in this
Right.
plan, of course.
I mean, why wouldn't we? Because we don't think there's going to be any expansion, we wouldn't use it.
If we said we were gonna, somebody was gonna put in, I don't know, the whole town was gonna become a game preserve and you wouldn't need it, right? But that's not gonna happen. I mean, I don't think it's.
Yeah, I really think that the big question with this is, I don't think there's going to be a lot more residential in the center. I think there might be different kinds, but I don't think there'd be a lot more big projects of that nature. So then the question is, how much more commercial development do you want? Where are you going to put it? And what do these water and sewer constraints mean for that? If we really want to do this, we have to do the sewer. I think which was what Mark, I think.
Right, we might say like there's some housing sections in town that don't have sewer. I'm looking at the map here, like I don't think this section down here, I don't think Poets Corner has sewer, does
No,
it?
it doesn't.
I'm not saying, but if that's a goal, we want to expand sewer services to our residents, well, that's got to get expanded. That's not more intense development, it's providing services to citizens, if that's what we want, for environmental reasons, I don't know. So that's another flip to it. is-
Which chapter, Abby, would this show up in later?
So,
Oh,
yeah, this is,
I'll shut
it's
up.
a
and
good
hold
question. So,
My mind's still then. Okay.
yeah, so
It's good to do it now.
the
That's a big
sewer
topic.
discussion, I see it fall under infrastructure, which I
Okay.
think currently is mixed in with like government services.
Fine. Yes.
But certainly it is, again, it ties into, the center or housing or economic development as well. But I think specifically it will be addressed in detail in that section.
And it's just, at a high level, anything like this has a break point. It's like, oh, okay, I can handle, so many more sewer hookups for so many more projects. And I have no idea what that number is. But let's say I could build, 20 different projects in the center of town that were mixed use. And now I'm going to make up a number, not spend $25 million expanding the sewer. Okay, great. I'm really going to think about whether or not I want to go past that break point and suggest to somebody that I want to sign on for the $25 million in infrastructure if I've got this much space available today. And just, parts of the equation I don't know, but this assumes a big capital project, or it suggests definitively a big capital project. And I guess since this was the last plan, did we do one in the past 10 years?
No, so
Okay.
there was recently one pump station upgrade in Salmon Brook Park.
Okay.
But the gas was
Additional
upgraded.
ones are planned.
Natural
Yes, a natural
gas
gas
was
upgrade in the
upgraded.
center.
Okay, got it.
And I know Salmon Brook Water has been doing some, like changing out the meters
Got it.
and things like, so they're making some investments.
But as an example, we built a station 280 and we didn't hit the break point.
No,
Okay, got it. And I was at some meeting where somebody said, oh, we could build another station 280 and still not hit the break point. I think I heard that. I could be completely wrong.
so, Station 280, I believe they were allocated and approved for 44,000 gallons per day. In the flow study, it shows a range, depending upon the peaking factor of that 10-inch pipe of how
Right.
many more gallons per day could be accommodated. And I don't want to tell you because I don't remember off the top of my head what
No worries.
that is. But that's just for reference.
All right.
It seems this is almost, again, it's back to the balancing. It's the balance, it's like you're saying, 25 million, you have to invest in something in order to get the benefits. Is the benefits big enough to get there?
Does it have payback?
What's the constraint? Are we constrained by the fact that we don't have the development that you want and therefore you need the septic? Or you say we have the septics, therefore we can't have the development? So it's a balance. And
Right.
it would seem in a 10-year plan, it really is, how are you going to resolve that? Who's going to do it? Who's going to make sure that we don't end up at year 8 and you say, oh, crumb, I wish we'd figured this out differently, 10 years ago. We should have done something that would have allowed us to have a better solution to where we need to be. And it seems that that's really maybe this issue as much as anything where this document can help out, making sure that that's brought to, I mean, I know it's obviously in the middle of your attention all the time and all the rest of you, but to the town's, attention, that it's not just capricious if somebody decides that we need to go from a 10-inch pipe to something else, but
Yeah.
it really has strategic implications over the next 10 years. And I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, just laying that out, that's a balance that really the town needs to resolve. Or be thinking.
You're writing down balance?
Yeah, that's right. Balance.
Drinking game now?
Yeah, that's right.
No, again, it's gonna go back to what we see in the plan. Again, one of the things I've heard too is you can decide, I want the plan to have this, right? And the sewer will be fine in the water. But then somebody builds an intense use that's allowed, and now all the capacity's gone. And then your plan's now out the door because one user, not for any fault of their own, has used that water or used that sewer, right? So
The budget's gone on the sewer.
but we're planners here, right? So what do we want to suggest? And remember, this committee, the zoning committee, the town doesn't build stuff unless it's a government building, right? It's making the environment right for that. So
For the developer.
for the developers or the citizens, whoever wants to do it. And, to whoever said, it's a lot of money to invest in infrastructure to hope somebody comes. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Because I assume to redo that line, Abby, where does it have to go to tie into the bigger line? All the way to the pump station or someplace in Simsbury?
I believe at least to the town line.
Yeah.
Okay, so miles, yeah.
But, again, the reason we talk about sewer a lot is that's where some of these goals for housing, if you're looking at that type of housing that's not a traditional, I'm not saying we want that, but if you're thinking about not traditional single-family homes on well and septic tank,
Yeah.
on sewer.
So as I'm thinking about this, if it's miles, I assume the 10-inch pipe would be fine north of the center. Because if you brought a bigger line from south of center up to north of center, or up to from the line to the south of center, that's a development zone that's already been identified. And now you can tap the larger line. So until there are definitive plans to go north of center, there isn't any need to get a bigger line north of center. Logic, yes?
So, right, so it's the 10-inch line that's the constraint.
Right. So if you expand the line from 189 south, which is a developmental, so I believe I heard somewhere in this conversation tonight, the Stop and Shop area is a development area. That's a target zone.
Yep.
So if you brought the, I don't know, Jim, what would it have to go to? 20-inch line, let's double it. 20 from the town line to Stop and Shop.
Yep.
You've now created a development zone that has a larger capacity. And then if you need to go north of the center.
Oh, so that could,
Right.
right, yeah,
Right.
you wouldn't need.
So it's
to
not,
change, right.
if it's
You don't need
25,
to at the beginning, it's at the end.
Right.
Is that what I'm saying?
right, it's wherever you plan to focus that. So to the point of, do we want to constrain construction? Yeah, if you want to go north of center, well, now you're talking about a big bill. South of center isn't such a big bill.
Your 20-inch line is clearly more expensive than your 10-inch line, but the key is, when do you have to break ground and do anything?
Right, yeah, but just thinking about it in the context of development, if Stop and Shop South is
Right.
an area of development, then
Agreed.
that's where the line needs to get bigger, for now.
Yeah, but just understanding and I'd be glad to look at it, Abby, just offline, just to understand how much capacity do we have today to say, like, again, because
Yes, so sorry to interrupt, so it's in the flow study, it's online as part of the WPCA, and I can send it out. So you can see,
Sure.
yeah, just quick and dirty, what our capacity is, what we're currently flowing, and then the window we have, if you will,
Yeah.
for access,
Got it.
go further constraints.
But I'm gonna keep moving this along. I don't think this type of topic is in the summary page from the beginning, right? It's a very weedy topic, and I think as we do this, there's gonna be a lot of these things in here. This is very town center specific, but sidewalks, I think we can talk about this in the center part, right? Because, or commercial track to street, I think a variety of new and retail. I don't really know how a plan of conservation and development gets a variety. I don't know what.
Could you incentivize through tax abatements or something like that? Like, can you?
I don't know. I just remember when we talked about tax abatements before, somebody's got to pay the taxes. So a tax abatement to one is a tax burden on another. Right? So
Yeah.
I remember we had that. That's one I do remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we had that. We got to give a
I mean,
tax.
Yeah, somebody's got to pick up the slab that you created again.
Yeah.
You know, so if this is a vision, to me, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of it, and town center's lovely, I wish it was occupied. Like, I wish it was, I mean, I don't have a vacancy rate, but it's substantial. So to me, it would be something, if I'm thinking
How
about,
does a town government fix that?
it's just a vision.
No, this.
A vision would be occupied commercial buildings.
But how
But
do we
does the
get
town
that?
government have control over that?
How do we put that in a plan? We've been struggling with that for.
It's a vision.
Understood.
It's a vision.
One person at the meeting mentioned, gee, I wish you had like a program for incubators so small businesses could move into the center and get over the initial hurdle. And then those are almost the words that they use. They're saying, we're looking for places, we'd really love to move in there, but there's too many hurdles for small businesses that aren't, like the auto bodies.
I feel like that has more to do with state law than anything we can really control. I mean, to provide the kind of incentives that somebody like that is envisioning, that's just beyond the scope of the budget we have to work with in town, I think.
And also I don't know anything to do with what's going on with the different property owners, but those of us who've been here a long time, you can name certain buildings or certain storefronts that have been
Yeah.
vacant for 15 plus years. I don't know why they're vacant for 15 plus years. I've heard rumors, which I'm not going to repeat on the record of why they are, but it's nothing to do with town,
Right.
right?
And there's nothing the town can do about it either, if it's what I'm thinking
A
of.
particular property owner likes having it empty. I mean, I used to live down south, and there was one town, the guy brought up all the storefronts, and he put his rock collection in every store window. No joke. Okay? The town was devastated, but he owned all the stuff, so I don't know.
Maybe we should talk with our Economic Development Commission members and see if they
Yeah.
have any ideas. Isn't that what they're supposed to be doing is?
But I think that's wasn't that part of the
businesses
study?
within new towns?
Did you guys look at
So
that?
the consultant did look at, obviously, the commercial spaces, and the market study is included. And basically, they identified mixed-use regulations as being an avenue to pursue to try to encourage, commercial, office, residential, so allow a variety. And basically with the hopes that it will become attractive enough for occupancy.
Maybe we have a headwind with online purchasing, so
Yeah.
that's obviously something nobody can control the direction, but overall habits of the buying public. I'm just curious, with all the new housing that's now in the center, are these businesses experiencing any increase in their traffic or their bottom line?
I'm not sure, yeah.
Does anyone even go there? I mean,
I mean, short of increasing the residential population in the center, you'd think would support more businesses would do better if there was more customers walking distance from them. When you say there's nothing the town can really do, I mean, more residential could do that. But we now have some experience. I'm just curious if the businesses, like Joan Beeman, could she tell us whether their traffic is up year over year?
Vinny never done it.
Vinny, I mean.
Yeah.
Anywho, that's right.
But yeah, I do drive it anecdotally. I do. Anecdotally, when I'm driving to work, I see way more people walking.
Yeah, okay.
Walking their dogs and stuff. So, 10, 12 people walking in the morning. I don't know if that translates to sales, but they're out trying to use the center in a more
I'd be
personal way.
curious, the restaurants we have in the center, if they've seen
An uptick.
I mean, I haven't looked to see if there's people walking to and from there. I don't know.
The amazing thing to me is how few restaurants we lost with COVID.
No,
That's kind of amazing.
I don't know if Trading Post closed, but that's the only one that I've seen that's
Yeah.
closed.
We have a new one going in next to Geisler's.
Yeah, Julian's, the farm store is, it's expanding, they're gonna have another.
But no,
location.
but Ken, there could be some, I'll say, there might be some zoning modifications. We can do some certain things to encourage, but, the vacancy things perplex me. Especially with some of the new population in the center, I would think a couple of places, they'd be ripe for some kind of a service.
Oh, you're doing a good coffee shop.
Yeah, like a coffee shop
Yeah.
For the walkers,
for the walkers.
the dogs.
As long as they have pup cups, because Bill likes to show his dog.
Good point.
All right, but I mean, as we go through this, I think I'm getting, what we talked about it towards the beginning, this type of thing is probably going to reside more in the actual sections. And I think if we're going to have a summary document, we're going to want to make this more concise as a big 50,000-foot statement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd put anything about the sewer and the water in
No.
the beginning. That would be in the infrastructure section. Because it's the center.
Yeah, it's more commercial.
Yeah, I mean,
Commercially accommodating.
I think that the things that are here, attractive street and business lighting, beautification, like I've heard, like maybe some architectural design, sign, we've talked about zoning, about trying to make our sign regulations a little bit more, what do you call it, precise,
yeah.
right? So I think some of that stuff's in here. We have here again, we have another one, preservation and reuse of historic buildings. Okay, we kind of just talked about that up
Yeah.
top. We're talking about it again, so.
I think this is kind of what Ken was saying,
Yeah.
that there's too much, the parts kind of bleed in and out of each other and don't map on to one another and as neatly as I think we're thinking would be more desirable.
I found the last one very interesting. A detailed strategic plan which has helped to bring about the above. Isn't that what this is?
Well, that's what you said, that's what you would do at the end as an implementation plan, because you want to do that for everything.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
which is, I just found that kind of a,
And a lot of the actions, a lot of the implementations are review the the plan of conservation development, make sure somebody follows it, monitor it. So, there's a lot of things about that stashed in the back, that says if you're going to go to the effort, look at it every time.
As I look through this, I'm almost thinking we're just going to have one section, maybe with 10 bullets, like one page, as we go through this, and then maybe a couple bullets per section.
Yeah.
I think that would actually make the plan more user-friendly
Yeah.
if it was structured more like we're describing.
It wasn't right, these guys were the ones that came up with it.
When just looking at this, just as a straw man kind of bootstrap, we can almost cut out. I can cut out the section about housing and commercial and just move that to the front of the chapter. One of these chapters. Then this one, I guess the next one would move into housing. The town roads would move into transportation. Just for a holding pattern, just at the very top of the chapter, just have it there to see how it fits in. Commercial development, that has a home. Open space, that has a home. Quality of life, it kind of is big and broad. But almost all of these pieces can find a home somewhere.
This first section overall, this is where the guiding principle of this plan of conservation and development is this first section. Would you guys agree?
And maybe the last section.
I was gonna say the Granby
last
home.
one too.
Okay,
Those two are kind of
yeah, those are the bookends for the whole, and that, the rest of this stuff goes into I like that. I like your thought process.
No, that's not the thing.
Yeah.
I like that too.
the only other thought I had in regards to the chapter was adding a section of progress since last review.
Yeah, so that, I was thinking about putting that up front in the introduction-ish, plugging it in somewhere, so kind of what's happened in the last 10 years, is that what you were thinking?
I saw it as each section because a section may have more progress than another. That's why I was saying including in the section, similar to what Ken It's just saying.
Got it, okay.
It has a home, it has a specific topic, here are the things that we're acting on. I was writing down in the second section, right? We know there were sidewalks added since the last 10 years. We know we've seen lighting, the street lighting or the sidewalk lights. Whereas increased number of restaurants, many of which are outside seating. I know we don't have any control over the restaurants, but the outside seating was
Yeah.
approved, you know? That's the kind of stuff that,
Yeah, so that's a.
Thank you, COVID.
that's right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So each section, kind of adding almost like an existing condition / progress from the last plan as kind of a setting the stage for the vision of what we see moving forward and then the goals and.
So
Yeah.
it might give you pause to say, we've made no progress. Should it be included in the next 10 years? Or there was no progress, it should be included in the next 10 years.
Has to be.
And let's act on that one. Let's make that a priority of the committee, of the different boards in town.
Whichever is a governing body or governing bodies.
So maybe for the next meeting then, I'll put together more of a structured outline, pulling these pieces around, and then we can focus on the population piece of it, get into the environment piece of it, and then have housing as a backup. And I'll work with you, Ken, if you don't mind, does that sound?
Yeah, I think
good idea.
that approach will
Kind of.
find verboseness.
Yeah, I like that idea. I've made some notes around some of the sections already, so. Yeah. Speaking of meetings, our regular scheduled meeting would be the week before Christmas. If people are not traveling, they're here, I know it's getting very close to holiday, but if people are here that Tuesday, I would be okay to meet if you are co-chair on the 23rd.
Yep.
Is everybody?
23rd?
Yeah,
I can make it.
it's Christmas Eve.
Right, it's Christmas Eve. Exactly.
But if the majority are here, I mean, again, we just talked about timing, is that okay for staff? Yeah.
Yep.
Even the hiding one behind the computer there? Okay, it's been quiet.
We're gonna do 6:30 start?
Let's
Can I
leave it
get-
at 7 when we'll,
Leave it at 7? because it's
Yeah.
like- Yeah,
but I'd like to at least meet, because that'll be, we can get to the demographics and start on the environment one, and then we'll get into the survey. You might even have some initial more counts and stuff by then. for the
Yep.
survey. Is that okay with everybody then?
yeah.
Sure.
So is there any homework we could be doing?
Yeah, I would like us to take, I'm gonna take this section here, the vision, and I'm gonna take the very 50,000, what do we think Granby is with these bullets here? I like the last bullets. And what do you guys think is our outline for this document? All right, and we can all get our views and send that in. And then the next homework is just look at the sections. I've started writing notes, but on some of the, I wrote down some notes like, yeah, this really isn't how it is anymore, right? It's somewhere it says we're gonna have more retail stores in town. Well, probably not with Amazon.
Mr.
right?
Jesus is taking care of that.
Right. But, write down some notes and come in, and if you see some stuff that's, interest to the committee, send it to that POD site, and Abby will make sure we all get it ahead of time. The homework really is to come to these meetings as prepared as you can for those sections.
So we're gonna do demographics.
Environment, at least just read the next section ahead. If we go, we're having a nice night, and we'll go out for a party afterwards. Right?
There we go.
And I'll try to make sure you have those sections and all the rest of the sections all broken up into the key message points, just all the paragraphs, that is to stay in just as a job aid to help as you're going through those.
Yeah, and then after that, when we get the survey results, I'll kind of want to check them out and say, well, hey, everybody can read them, but this one's probably housing. These are the ones that are talking about commercial development.
And also some of them are just, we're not gonna deal with, like blow up the center.
That's a- yeah,
Seems
that's a-
rational.
Yeah, but
reasonable.
let's not go
I think
in.
with bulldoze, don't go.
Thank you. That's
Safe.
far more possible.
You know, then just keep, as you go through this, that overreaching theme of the rural residential, what we've defined in it, right? Which is that, I'm not gonna say the B word, so you don't check off another box. That's what it is.
You know, conservation, development, rural, residential, we've got all these center, non-center, you know, we've got all these
We're
dichotomies.
cool.
I mean, Peggy, how many times have you heard on zoning, don't make Granby Route 44?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
That's truth to that, right? That's-
and I share that.
Yes,
But
we
my
all-
feeling is the, part of what this community is not that. And there are plenty of places to go to live if that's what you want. If you want to live in a community that's dominated by 5-lane highways, there's plenty of places for you to move to in Connecticut. Why should we become that?
So one of the things in real estate is walkability score, or the walking score. And for the most part, most of Granby is a 1 or a 0 because we are not a walking town other than the center. So
Well, people who
something,
move here knowing that that's not what they want, or they wouldn't move here.
but I think we have to recognize that that's not going to change.
I
No.
agree.
I mean,
I think what we'll get in some of those is, again, you're not gonna have sidewalks on Silver Street,
Right.
but maybe you have some semblance of a shoulder, so 2 cars or a pedestrian can pass without you getting killed, right? Well, you don't go to the extreme, but you go to somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's where balance comes out of it, nicely. Yeah, you're not gonna have a 4-foot bike lane on every road.
No.
But again, I'm just talking like a lot of, you just need some place that everybody can share. And unfortunately, people are on these damn things, which we're not, it's gonna be a difficult thing for distracted driving. I saw a comment about that.
Well, but I mean, the distracted driving that's unfortunate with these,
Yeah.
that's here to stay.
So the good news
There's
about
nothing we can do
Granby
about that.
is that we have 3 major state roads that cross through us. It's remarkable, actually, that we have state roads. That's why no matter where you live, other than Case Street, you're only a few minutes away from a state road when you have Blizzard.
Even Case Street, I
Yeah. But that also means that we have no real control over all of that roadway that's
Yeah.
going through town.
Right,
Because
that's the
it's state
downside
road.
of it.
So all we really have control on are the silver streets and the side streets.
You know, and to me, that's almost the front matter in a way, you know, it's recognizing that the septic and the water is going to be a limiting factor in the planning, recognizing that 3 major state roads changes the way we have to focus more on the feeders and the alternative transportations rather than saying we want to change the way the roads go, because that's probably not.
No, it's not gonna.
Not on the cards.
Yeah. But that, you know, sets the boundaries for where the plan has to fit within.
Now, we'll put on, and Abby, I don't think you have a date, but when the town center study's presented.
So it's presented December 11th, if that's I think
Yeah,
that's the
you're right.
Thursday. Is that the date? Yeah, the 11th.
To
Yep.
planning and zoning?
No, so it's to the center committee group, and obviously any members of the public are welcome to attend. So that the study will be finalized pretty much right around there.
What was the date again, Abby?
December 11th, and that's.
Thursday.
Yeah, 7 PM over at the senior center.
Is there a library presentation to have also? Their long-term plan?
I know they just presented last night as part of, I'm not exactly
That's
sure
that was
when.
yesterday, was done.
When that is.
So I would suggest, and Ken, I'm glad you brought up homework. If you have the time, go to the meeting, show your support. If you can't, is it going to be taped?
Yes, it will be recorded, and we will also post the plan on the website too, and I'll send out a link to everyone when it's posted.
Because then we can take the copy of that when we get to that particular section for commercial and center. That's going to be very applicable. And there may be some actions that zoning will have to look at ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there will be some, so we'll take a look at them. Still can't get Peggy back, but.
Too bad I didn't lose the election. You could add me back.
So, all right.
Shall we adjourn?
Anything else you want to cover before? Well, I want to thank everyone again for the time and very good discussion. I hope you think it's good tonight, Chris.
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
glad we're starting to think about getting more meaning out of fewer words.
Yeah, that seems like a consensus that we can.
You know, the attention span of people is low as it is today.
Well, and I just think it'll be more, if it's less loose, it'll be more useful. If it's more coherent and structured, it'll be more useful to all the people who are going to be using this for the next 10 years after we write it. And I appreciate your work that you're doing, Ken, to help us with that restructure. That's a heavy lift, and I appreciate
More of it soon, hopefully,
doing it.
next week.
Tell your friends, neighbors.
Yes, do the survey.
Is Abby, before we adjourn, is there a mechanism that, not that I would want to, but that you can't do more than one survey?
So
Is it by email?
It's
It wasn't
recognized-
a little test I did.
by whatever device you use,
Okay.
so you can only submit once per device. Yeah, and it is anonymous, so I don't know who's submitting.
Because I did a test, but I didn't submit because I didn't want to waste my
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
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 So,
Are we allowed to fill in the survey ourselves?
We're citizens.
yeah, we're citizens.
I have, I don't see a problem, especially if there's something you want to get a comment, because you can remain anonymous and you can just say, well, that guy, he could have been the one that wrote plowed out in the center, right?
I did not.
Just kidding.
So we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye. We are adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes.